Hey everybody, it's March 4th. Welcome to Reset by Sandy. As I mentioned on my Sunday video, I wanted to come in and talk to you about the Happiness Trap book, in particular, a resource that is available in conjunction with the book that reminds me of the cost benefit analysis that shows up in Smart Recovery, but it kind of takes that exercise through a different lens and a journaling prompt rather than filling in columns on a page. And in my experience with doing it this morning, I found it really valuable in that through the journaling, I was really able to experience deeper layers of the answers I give versus doing a cost benefit analysis, which would usually show up for me more just jotting down quick notes in terms of how my experiences were with substances or behaviors that I was trying to release in the past. And I think any of us who have addiction issues, that there's always something else that comes in to take over a previous substance or behavior, and we always have to be monitoring it. So I did the process myself this morning, and I wanted to share it with you. So the file that I printed out this morning from these free resources, and the resource can be found at thehappinesstrap.com/free-resources. I will put it in the description box. But I printed up something that's called Struggle Strategies and Their Costs. So I'll just go through it with you. I'll share some of my personal answers. I will be vulnerable with you. While I do offer peer support, and I'm a trained addiction coach, I am very human. I'm not perfect. So here we go. It starts out in part one asking, what have you tried to avoid or get rid of? Thoughts and feelings that you don't want. So for that, I wrote for myself that I'm resistant at times to memories of loss or loved ones who have passed away. I actually got triggered while I was watching somebody else on a video this morning, and I was resistant to it. It was, while it may not show up as an addictive behavior, I couldn't help but take notice of it, especially while I was doing this exercise this morning. So it asks you, so what have you tried to avoid or get rid of? For example, thoughts and feelings. I wrote, I try to get rid of the reminder that I am alone. It sparks loneliness that I may not have been experiencing until that memory or awareness of disconnection came up. Maybe sometimes it implies that I should be doing something. Maybe it sparks some shame around connections that have gone sour, even though I don't hold full responsibility for those connections completely on my own. So that was just an example of what I put for that. And then it goes on to ask, what do you do to distract yourself or take your mind off of that painful thought or feeling? Well, I was aware when I was experiencing that sense of loss and disconnection that I was really resistant to this morning. I went and had an early lunch. You know, I don't usually have my lunch at 10:30 in the morning, but I was using food as a self-soothing mechanism, even though I wasn't actually hungry yet. It was just like, oh, I will go have my lunch and I'll feel better. So using a substance, food, to moderate my emotion dysregulation. So I'm not sharing this because I'm shaming myself around it, but I can't help but not pay attention to it, particularly when I'm doing this exercise this morning. So then it goes on to ask, how do you try to consciously or unconsciously think your pain away? And it gives different examples of how somebody may do this through worrying, fantasizing about a better future, imagining escape scenarios, revenge scenarios, blaming yourself or others, rationalizing, positive thinking, positive affirmations. Those of us who are spiritual classically do that. And we think it's great, and it's not necessarily bad, but it just depends on the context. Planning, strategizing, constructive problem solving. That sounds like me. Yes, even saying this too shall pass or it may never happen, depending on how often you're using that, it may be a thinking strategy that turns out to not actually be helpful for you in the end. So, yeah, so for me, the thinking strategies were analyzing. Sometimes, if I've had a connection go sour, rather than maybe trying to make it work or doing deeper level healing around it, I'll just say, oh, peace, love, and light. And, it's, I guess, in a sense, it's kind of what they would call spiritual bypassing. So yeah, just holding myself accountable today, in places where maybe I could be doing better as I go through this exercise. Next, it asks, what substances do you put into your body primarily to avoid or get rid of pain? Foods, cigarettes, drinks, drugs, herbal remedies, tea, coffee, chocolate, and so on. So I just shared with you that I had an early lunch to moderate emotional dysregulation. I don't know that it's successful, but it is what it is, and I'm glad I'm here talking to you about it today. Any other strategies? What other strategies have you used at times to escape, avoid, or distract yourself from unwanted thoughts and feelings? For example, have you tried meditation, having affairs, aggressiveness, Tai Chi, massage, and such? Now, a lot of these are helpful strategies that, we would talk about as being great tools, but it depends on how much we're using them, and does that in itself become unhealthy? Is it avoiding something deeper that should be addressed? And then it goes into part 2. How have these strategies worked in the long term? And part 3, what has it cost you to use these strategies? So I was also honest with myself as I moved through this, and did some journaling around how I will actively use travel searches and booking vacations as an escape route sometimes too. I could scroll for hours searching vacations, which isn't necessarily unhealthy in itself, but I've certainly spent money that maybe wasn't wise to spend. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I'm not going to really judge myself around that, but certainly tons and tons and tons of hours scrolling vacations. I actually had to delete my Facebook a few years ago. We do scrolling. So any behavior can become troublesome, right? Even what somebody would consider a healthy behavior. Like I've noticed some people becoming addicted going to the gym. So it's great to go to the gym and be in shape, but does it become obsessive compulsive, or what have you? So it goes on to talk about what has it cost you. And for each of these sections, you're literally journaling. You're being asked to do a deeper dive and just, kind of get to the root of these topics, if I could put it that way, which I really love, because the cost benefit analysis is a great tool. in smart recovery, but this has us go to the next level about, what it's cost you. As it says here, many of the strategies we use excessively or inappropriately have significant costs in terms of wasted money, wasted time, wasted energy, and negative effects upon our health, vitality, and relationships. In other words, many of these strategies made you feel better in the short term, but in the long term, they lowered your quality of life. And the same would hold true for, substances or behaviors that we maybe try to give up to begin with, and then they just become substituted with something else. And then the next part asks, what's your reaction to this exercise? So I found it, I don't even know if I have a word for it. I really appreciate that it kind of made me go deep on a few parts of my life that really would benefit from some change, some positive change right now. And then the last piece, are you open to trying something new? Are you willing to learn some brand new skills for handling your pain in a completely different way? So I thank you for being here with me today. And I encourage you to maybe do this for yourself if you're on the addiction recovery path, because I think new methods of regulating our emotions come into play when we've given up specific substances and behaviors. And those new strategies aren't always the best for us. So an exercise like this could really help keep us in check. And so, yeah, I'm hoping to continue to do this kind of video on Wednesdays, more clinical, therapeutic, peer support. And then on Sundays, have the more spiritual side of it. So if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And I'm really grateful for you being here today. Take care.